Well, back in 1972, I can still remember the time when word had spread that the Candler estate had the carousel for sale. And that sent great angst throughout the community, because here was this carousel that generations had grown up with since 1919 in Logansport, and it was headed out of town unless somebody did something. And what happened then was something truly phenomenal, and that is that the Logansport Jaycees put together a fundraising drive, and it was about as homespun as it could get. You had plastic containers on counters throughout the community. You had any number of things that were out there, door-to-door drives, lots of pennies, children raising money at school to save the carousel, save our carousel. That was the name of the drive. And through the efforts of the Logansport Jaycees, they were willing to keep it in Logansport, Indiana. And it did more than just save the carousel for ownership here locally by a nonprofit corporation. It kind of reinstilled the spirit and community that we had at the time, because that was coming after an era when we lost a lot of downtown buildings to fires. The Pennsylvania Railroad was kind of dying out in Logansport. We were losing a lot of jobs with that. And we kind of been bypassed with the national highway system. We were losing a lot of the identity that we had, but the carousel was something that was very much part of our identity still. And the community rallied around that and saved it from going to the Astro World Park in Houston or another park in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And that spirit had a momentum with it that kept it moving forward. The carousel was updated, it was painted, community groups, volunteers came together, and they upgraded the carousel home in Riverside Park and the train. And soon after, a small Ferris wheel was added, airplanes were added as an attraction, and we had kind of this mini amusement park at Riverside Park, and it became a great attraction in an era when family reunions were very, very popular on Sunday afternoons, on summer days in Riverside Park. It was just a great time for the city. And that kind of continued until about 1987. The carousel was named a National Historic Landmark by the Department of the Interior. And that really, I think, raised some eyebrows, that people knew, it was just this beautiful creation that was out there. It was something that they rode as children, but I don't think it was until then that people really understood the significance of what we had right here in our own backyard. And it was a year later that the former Lieutenant Governor, then Governor Frank O'Bannon, designated it as one of Indiana's hidden treasures. And being a hidden treasure was really, I think, the designation that people started to sit up and take notice about around the state, because that got the word out that there's something in Logansport that's really very, very special. Federal Reserve Board from Chicago had a meeting in Logansport, and the Federal Reserve Board members rode the carousel. That's the kind of thing you just don't see. But it was part of what really got people to embrace it. And probably the greatest moment for me as a Logansport resident, and this ranks right up there with being elected mayor, and the night that I was elected mayor was the night back in 1995 when we celebrated the 100th anniversary of Riverside Park by christening the new restored carousel in the McHale Community Complex in Riverside Park. And we even got the South Bend Symphony Orchestra to come to Logansport, and I had a chance to sing God Bless America with the South Bend Symphony, and they played the songs from the movie Carousel. It was a great moment to be in Logansport. There were fireworks afterwards, there were picnics. It was just a great thing. And that night inspired support for even symphony music in the parks for another decade after that. It's just a really great thing. Logansport was on Good Morning America from Riverside Park. And it all comes from people coming together and saying, we want to support a cause that's for children that will make the carousel part of Logansport forever. We saved it from leaving here once, and we want to keep it here forever. Generations long after I'm around, long after anybody's gone, will appreciate what we have here, and will appreciate what was saved here, what was crafted by Gustav Dentzel in Philadelphia by immigrants. I mean, what an American story that is. And it's a story that unfolds in this pavilion. You know, I love this place so much that my wife and I had our wedding reception there. because it's so much a part of our community, and we wanted to be, celebrating the heritage of Logansport for years to come, and we did. A few years ago, I decided to kind of trace the carousel's roots back to Fort Wayne, Indiana, when it was in Fort Wayne, and it's got this interesting connection with Logansport and the rivers, in that the carousel originally was located in Fort Wayne in a park where water was stored to fill the Wabash Erie Canal, which ironically downstream ran through downtown Logansport, just a few blocks from where it's located right now. And it was kind of like the Fort Wayne version of Coney Island in Cincinnati or Indianapolis. It was an old amusement park. And when the canal shut down and that river, the reservoir was fairly closed, then the carousel was moved to Spencer Park in Logansport. And Spencer Park was chosen because it was the end of the line for the trolley system. And High Street was so named because it was high enough that it could not be flooded out. And so High Street was the street that had a trolley system on it. And the incentive to get the carousel here was to get riders to ride to the entire length of the system out to Spencer Park, which was the end of the city limits at the time, and to ride the carousel. It was a great day to spend time with your family, to spend time in the park, and to enjoy this great attraction. But it was also kind of a money-making thing. And it was up there long after streetcars were gone from the landscape. But it went to Riverside Park in 1944. It went to a place that it's been ever since, and now for over 70 years. So, the carousel is something that people talk about. We still talk about grabbing the brass ring here, which even dates back to a festival we had in the 1990s, to say to people, metaphorically, let's reach for something extra. Let's reach for something special and give people something very special in Logansport that no one else has. And that's kind of the metaphor for the spirit of Logansport, that people really believe in a one-of-a-kind attraction like that. And the carousel just about is a one-of-a-kind attraction in the United States. You can go to a lot of cities, you can go to a lot of amusement parks, you can pay a lot of money, and you can stand in a lot of lines for a very long time, but you're probably not going to have any more fun than you're going to have in Riverside Park, reaching out for a brass ring and grabbing it and getting a free ride. And that's about as American as it gets.